Hey, expats and travelers alike, I'm Josh,
And I'm Kalie.
and it has been a while since we've done a live stream. And in today's live stream, we're going to talk about the things that we've noticed since being away from the United States for 2.5 years. We're still trying to process just everything that's gone on and transpired. To give you guys a little bit of a background, we've been living abroad for about 14 years now across 5 different countries. So we have spent some time definitely away from the US, but then also back in the US. So this kind of bouncing back and forth gives us a touch of America, and then we lose it again whenever we go abroad. So let's talk about some of the kind of the reverse culture shock things that we've recognized since coming back this time.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. We did have someone on Instagram write that. I think Josh is going to pull that up for me real quick. The question was from Expedition Confidential. I want to hear all about the reverse culture shocks and what creature comforts you smuggled back in your luggage. So we'll get to the creature comforts in a second. But talking about reverse culture shock, it is a real thing. Definitely something that you have to be aware of, especially if it's your first time moving abroad and then going back to the US. Now, we primarily felt this when we lived abroad for the first time in Spain. And what's funny, this question is on our newsletter. If you guys want to be part of our newsletter, then you can email me at info@expatseverywhere.com. But we started a newsletter at the beginning of the year, and I'm actually touching on reverse culture shock in that newsletter for the April edition, which will come out probably next week, the week after. So I'll be talking a little more extensively about it. But I would say for us, like, it is very different because you get very used to your new home and you're adapting to your new home. And then when you go back to the US, or your home country in general, it's weird because it's like, this was my home, but it has moved on without me because I've been living in a different area. So it's something to definitely be aware of when you go back and forth. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think in certain ways you lose some relationships with friends. You lose like a weird dynamic, especially if your friends have remained in the town that you all knew each other in, because their lives continued in that town. You've gone and done something different, and then you try to like come back and re-enter. So the conversations are very different. I think that's one thing that I've always had maybe a more difficult time with. Not that I can't just roll back into Bristol, which is where we are right now, as you guys can see some of the stuff behind us, and feel like at home. It's great to see friends and family, but it does feel different. It definitely feels like both parties have moved on.
Yeah. And I think sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect because you have decided to become an expat. And so you've decided to leave that area, maybe out of your comfort zone, and do something different. So then when you do go back to the area, people maybe don't understand why you even did that. But you meet people abroad who kind of have the same mentality as you. So you become friends with them. And then when they go back to their home country or home city, you can kind of connect on like, oh, yeah, it was kind of weird because this moved on without me. Even though it was familiar, it was unfamiliar. So there's definitely stuff to be aware of. And I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of how life is. It's the same thing as if you maybe would move different cities than from where you grew up or something. But it's just something to be aware of. And I do touch on that a lot more in our newsletter and some funny stories that happened to us when we first were abroad. But now it's a little easier for us, I'd say.
Yeah. So you guys can get on that newsletter, info@expatseverywhere.com for Kalie's newsletter. Just write her, let her know you want it. Okay. So here is something that I noticed when, I don't know, we were probably 24, 48 hours back. We're at my dad's house in Knoxville. And I noticed just the food options.
It's like overwhelming.
Overwhelming. There's like so many different food options. And then also that a lot of things are processed. Like,
oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know where you guys stand on high fructose corn syrup, but like you read a label and there's high fructose corn syrup on it. And I don't find that so much in Europe.
Okay. I didn't even bother reading labels. I went to the store and I was like, Doritos, Reese's. Like, I came back and Josh was like, what are you doing? You know, it's one of those like, oh, I know they have all these things that I can find them in Porto for sure. Yeah. Or maybe they're a little different. I can find an alternative, but it's almost like you go back to the US or wherever and, you know, your home is, or your home country, I guess, not your, you know, your old home. And you're just kind of like, oh, I can get this. I can get this. And food tends to be something that I do, which is probably not good because we've been trying to lose a little weight and now it's like, oh, it's a little harder now. But so high fructose.
Well, it's not just that, but it's just like a lot of processed foods. Like I don't think about how many processed foods there are in Porto. Yeah. Like we don't tend to buy processed foods.
Yeah.
And this is no indictment on my parents buying processed foods, whatever. But it's
I
just
did when we got back.
yeah, Kalie did as well. But I think that's the thing is like that's just what you do
It's
as an
normal.
American. It's
Yeah.
normal. And I honestly think that like Portuguese people would come to the US and be like, yo, this stuff's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is it's interesting. Like the packaging's interesting, the names of things are more interesting. And I feel like in Portugal, the name of a food is like very straightforward. It's like what it is. There's no jazz, pizzazz to it. And it's just like, that's what you get. But like we're more focused on branding and marketing here in the US. So that's something that I picked up on within the first 24, 48 hours.
Yeah. Something that I've definitely noticed as well is we don't move around as much. Like, so Josh has an Apple Watch.
That was my next thing.
Josh has an Apple Watch. I have an Oura Ring. And so it tells us like get moving or you can do your steps and everything. And we just sit around a lot more. And especially I think because we're driving too, you know, obviously it's a big car culture. And we kind of joke, we have some Portuguese friends who are like, oh, Portugal's a car culture. And we're like, it is, but it's not like it is in the US. Something just started playing over there.
Yeah. Siri's listening.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's another thing. We got Siri, Alexa, all that stuff. They're listening. No, just kidding. But so yeah, I've noticed that we're snacking a bit more because it's there. It's fun stuff. I feel like I am. And then sitting, you know, like we're not moving around as much because you drive everywhere. You have to drive everywhere for the most part, unless you're in a big city. But yeah, it's just a lot less movement.
Yeah. So my comment on that is to give you guys some kind of like data behind our regular movement. In the mornings when I take Valencia to school, I have to push her up quite a large hill. So I'm getting steps in and burning calories like first thing in the morning. And by the end of the day, if I need to hit like 750 on my movement ring, 750 calories on my movement ring, I'm usually pretty close without having to work out. However, here, being in the States, at the end of the day, like if I haven't worked out, I am nowhere near 750. Yeah. I am probably at like 250 to 350. So like I have to be very conscientious and intentional to actually close my movement ring.
Yeah, it's a lot harder, definitely.
And these new lights are absolutely burning.
I told you. Yeah, we got new lights and I was like, ooh, I can already feel a little bit of the warmth, which is nice because it is in the 40s here. You know, I know back in Porto.
Another thing I was going to bring up.
Oh gosh, like you're looking at the weather and it looks so nice. And it's like really cold here in Southwest Virginia, where Josh is from. We're visiting his mom and family right now. But I want to say one other thing though about
I've got to transition us to this next one.
Because you're talking about walking and stuff. Like in the morning you go, Josh takes Sia to school and then I pick her up. So same thing, I get that movement. Something that's been really difficult is just being so out of routine. So, you know, we have that type of routine, whether that, you know, and it fluctuates depending on what we're doing in Porto. But when you're out of routine, then I feel like the snacking happens more, sitting around happens more. You just do less. So I think that it's hard travel in general when you are out of your routine.
Yeah.
What else did you have?
Okay. Well, number 3, and then we'll get to some of the comments. Thank you guys so much for commenting and writing to us. We appreciate the love. So number 3 is how much I appreciate central heat and air.
Oh yeah. That's
like
a good one.
you just go to your thermostat, you hit a button, switch it on, boom, it temperature regulates.
Yeah.
You do not get that in most places in Portugal.
Yeah.
In Europe.
Well, and even just being at your mom's just being at your mom's, the weather has been so different here. I mean, 4 days ago, it was in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it's cold. Let me turn the heat on. Oh, you know, now it's too hot. Let me turn, and you can just, you just heat, cold, and it, like you said, it regulates it. And that is really nice.
I wish we had that.
Yeah.
We have some friends who have central heat and air in Portugal, but it's not very common.
It's not common. Yeah. It's not the norm. And I think it's a little pricier too, right? But some of the new builds are starting to do that. So that might be something that we think about with the renovations of ours. I don't know. The mini splits, I think, are more common.
Yeah. I think we'll end up going with what's more common.
Yeah. Easier to fix and stuff if you have to. But then I think we had one other question that we were going to comment on. Thanks guys on Instagram and Facebook for commenting when we put out that we were going to have this live stream. Crystal Kelly, you're so fortunate being outside of the American bubble. Is there any major contradictions you've seen that counter what is said in American media? I found it makes the idea of traveling outside of America scary or intimidating. Oh,
I have a statement to make about that. I completely agree that there is a media bias towards domestic U.S. media bias towards making everything outside of the U.S. seem scary and intimidating. And I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
I just think it seems like the media a lot here has just been everything's just so negative, you know. So that's really unfortunate with like all the news. It's like, oh, just don't even turn it on.
I agree with that. I think when you do turn the news on, and boy, in the U.S., how can you avoid it?
Yeah,
Like
it seems
compared to living in
everywhere.
Portugal, we just rarely tune into the news.
Like I feel like we turn Portuguese news on. Obviously, there's only so much you can pick up, but it seems just kind of like
they
not
just
as
read
negative.
The news.
Yeah. This is just very like attacking of all things, everything. It's all over the place.
So here's what I've noticed to that point is that the channel that you watch, like whatever their lean is, all they're doing, or 90% of what they're doing, seems to be attacking the other side.
Oh yeah.
Not like, hey, this is what our side's doing, and this is why our policies are great, blah, 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 blah. But it's like bashing, like, can you believe that the donkeys did this? Can you believe that the elephants did that? And it's just,
well, either way, it's but even not even like there is that, but it's just all seems to be very negative and doom and gloom. Like this is happening, this is going on, this is bad, this is da-da-da, and it's just like, oh, it's too much. But I wanted to touch before we get to the comments real quick at the other part of the question when we were talking about reverse culture shock was creature comforts, what you're bringing back in your luggage. And I know this was a big conversation with friends on things like Kraft macaroni and cheese, or little things like that are either hard to find in Portugal or they're just really expensive. So we've been living abroad for such a long time that I think that it's easier to adapt to your new place because then you're not relying on like someone sending you something or going back and getting it. But I will say when we do go back, I will get things because it's like, well, it's here, I might as well get it. And probably one of my biggest things is deodorant, because I don't like the roll ball liquidy stuff. And that is European. It was even in Asia, really popular in Asia. I like just like the solid, so you're not feeling like wet, and it works, I think, a little better. So I have a list of like the day before we cruise out, because we're taking a cruise back, for those of you who don't know, across Atlantic. The day before we cruise back, I'm going to run to Publix because it's leaving out of Florida, and Publix is the best grocery store ever. And I'm going to pick up like 3 or 4 like things of deodorant. I think, Josh, you want the same silly things like that. That is just like, we can live without it, but since we're here, we might as well get it.
Well, I think this goes to what Bud is asking about. Bud Adams, longtime listener, first-time caller. What's your favorite U.S. thing you forgot you missed until you recently came back to the U.S.?
Forgot you missed, though. I mean, I've always known. I think every time I put on that
rolly
ball deodorant,
it'd be like junk food.
I think so. Isn't that weird? Although
it's very weird. I'm normally the sweet tooth, but
here's
Kalie
the thing with
ordered
me.
6 boxes of Girl Scout cookies at $6 a pop.
They're expensive now. I know they are expensive, and they're smaller than they used to be too. I'll say like the cookie size is going down.
It's sad,
but that's more maybe of a nostalgia thing. And they have different flavors, so I was like, let's try this. Tagalongs are still the best, though. I'll say that. So I'm glad I got 2 boxes of those. Maybe that's something that the Doritos taste different here. I'll say that
Doritos are better here.
Yeah, they're definitely better here. So I got a bag of Doritos. That was one of the main things that I was like, I'm getting that for sure. But other than that, I mean, it always seems to be like food things. And it's not that you can't necessarily you can't find it, but it's like it's easier to find it here.
Okay, so here, I don't know if I can. I'll have to think really hard about forgot you missed that part of it, that part of your question, Bud. But I think for me, the thing that I really like about the States is the shopping experience for basic clothes.
Oh,
so like t-shirts, underwear, and socks.
It's just a little
easier. And I don't know why it's easier. Like I just, here in the States, I know exactly where to go to get exactly what I'm looking for. And I'm that type of dude when it comes to shopping. Like I don't go shopping. I go to buy something. It's like I go there, I buy it. I don't browse for hours like somebody I know. I just go buy it and then I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's usually like I usually find what I'm looking for cheaper.
Yeah, that is true.
So
I do think that prices have gone up a little bit. I've gone shopping already, and I have seen like clothes shopping more so than food shopping. But it just seems like prices have gone up. I've been a little surprised on a few things, but some, like at Target, for example, I got like a couple pairs of pants for Sia, and they were $5. I mean that stuff is still pretty good. But we have Primark, in Portugal, which is kind of similar, but to like a Target maybe, but it's still a big store, so it can be a little overwhelming, I guess.
I don't think the quality's as good.
The quality.
There's something about like the material. Like I have burned through socks in Europe way faster than I ever burned through socks in the States.
That's true. You've even got some of like the sports stores and everything. Yeah.
Like brand.
That is true. That is weird.
So I promised you all that we would get to the comment section and then we'll come back to some of our observations because I do want to touch on pricing.
Okay.
Because I have a massive observation that I've made with that. I don't know if you have.
Probably not because honestly, like after the Target run, when the number came out, I was like, ooh, I was not looking at prices.
How much was it?
It was like over $200 on like the first Target run that we did. But I mean, I wasn't really looking at prices.
All right. So let's jump back to Matt. I was excited for the show. Thanks for tuning in.
And happy Easter. Yes, Easter weekend. Hopefully everyone's able to spend time with family, have a little time off from work, school, stuff like that. Oh, welcome home.
So this is a funny one that we get. Thank you. When we arrive in the US and you hit like immigration, customs, whatever, and they say welcome home, I appreciate that. I've got a US passport. I'm traveling on it. They know I'm American. Welcome home is, I think, very appropriate. Like that's warm. But the U.S. is not my home. My home is Portugal.
Yeah, we've always been like that. I mean, it's been quite a while, but everywhere that we're living, that's what we call home. So when people are like, oh, like, we say, oh, we're going back to the U.S. to visit family or friends, things like that. Oh, you're going home? No, we're not going home. We're going back to the U.S. because home is where we currently live. Yeah. Home is where we're together. That's right. Home is where the heart is. Okay. But thank you.
Yes, thank you. So Raj says, or kind of is asking if, we're going to be putting out a video about the renewal of a year resident permit. No, because the process was so simple. It could potentially be
it keeps changing.
It could potentially be a short, but I don't even think we'll do that. Like,
well, we got in on the where you could renew online, and so that's something that kind of keeps changing. They open it up, and then they close it, and they open, they close it. So it kind of depends on when you hit it and where they are in their volume. But renewal online was really easy. It was getting my residency card that was a pain, and I'm not going to blame CTT.
We won't,
because it wasn't actually their fault.
We won't detail that.
But
we won't detail that.
I finally got it.
Tamara, glad to have you here. I know. I'm sorry that I'm causing it to bounce.
Yeah, the table is a little.
Tamara agrees that reverse culture shock is real. She knows. California is big, vast, and crowded.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to plan your days around traffic, which you don't really.
Not where Josh is from.
Not where I'm from.
It's a bit wide open here.
That's going to be a part of the observation I made with pricing. So before we came back, a lot of our friends in Portugal were coming from bigger areas or areas that are maybe economically more expensive than where I'm from. Okay. So I was expecting to come back to like gobsmacking prices, like unrealistic prices for
like gas
for food
and
mainly food. Like we were talking about like eating out and whatever, coffee, blah, 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 blah. So what I notice is pretty similar to eating at Western restaurants
around Europe, really? Or in Portugal?
In Portugal.
Okay.
So like, for example, we went to a place in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is, I don't know, maybe the third largest city in Tennessee behind Nashville and Knoxville.
Memphis,
fourth largest city, Chattanooga. Fact check me. So anyway, so it's not tiny. It's a
nice size city. Go.
It's probably third or fourth size city in Portugal.
Okay.
So we had burgers, fries, whatever.
Yeah.
And they would have been like the very same price at a similar establishment in Porto.
Okay.
Right?
Josh looks at prices more than I do, so I think you pick up on that stuff. Although I did.
Hold on.
Okay.
So then we went to a Mexican restaurant and happy hour, $2 long necks.
Yeah.
$1 for the
little guys,
small Coronas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you could get a euro or $1 Super Bock. Now, one of the differences is in Europe, you don't have to consider tax and tip, which will add 25% on your bill when you do that in the States. You know, you get hit with your bill depending on if you're in Virginia or Tennessee, where the sales tax is different significantly. But then you add your 20% for tip, obligatory or something.
I don't know. They do that at like cafes. Like you go and you order a coffee, like takeaway, and then they flip it around for a tip. I'm like, no tip.
Oh. Mind blowing.
You just took my order. That's been going on for a while though.
Yeah, we went to a gas station Subway. This was on a road trip. We were on a road trip. Went to a gas station Subway. Don't judge. It was like literally the only thing.
That's the U.S. though. Fast food when you're on the road. It really was the only thing that stopped.
So lady rings us up and she tells my mom like, first you have to press what you want. And she's like trying to be incognito about the fact that she's saying like, choose your tip amount.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you weren't standing there, but it was just like.
Did your mom tip? Did she?
I don't know if she did. I didn't look because you don't do that, right? Like that's the courteous thing to do. Like you turn your back. I didn't see the final bill, but yeah, it was like, why?
Yeah.
Like your job is to stand back there and make sandwiches. Like you didn't serve me. Like there's no service here.
That's what I don't get either. And that seems to become the norm. So yeah, it was the same thing with coffees. I went to a nice coffee shop. I was getting coffees for us. I order, the barista's right there, starts making the coffees. I'm ordering and paying, and they flip the thing around for like tip. And I'm just like, tip for me to stand here and order and then get the coffees.
What were the percentages?
I actually don't remember because I just literally, I knew it was about to happen. So I was looking for the no tip button, but I think they are pretty high. I mean, like 20% and stuff, which is really high. I don't know. So that always bumps prices up on things.
So a few years back, I remember it would be like, the bottom would be like 10%. It'd be like 10, 15, 20.
When they started doing
at a coffee shop. But then now I've noticed
that
places
was probably like 6 years ago.
Places are like 18, 20, and 25.
Yeah.
What the heck at a coffee shop?
Yeah. To get something
like literally you're turning around and
no, I mean like you're making the coffees and stuff, but that's your job to make the coffees
that's
and
your
then
job.
taking them. I'm not even sitting here.
You're not even we are getting too fired up on this.
But that does add to the costs of
it does add to the cost.
Tax and then the tip culture here.
Yeah.
So that's something. Oh, the one thing that I haven't liked for a really long time in the US is when you go and you buy something and you see the price, then the tip goes on at the end when you're like things are ringing up. I love Europe for just it's included. So if this tells me that it's 10, then it's 10. I don't have to think. It's 10, and I just that just seems so much easier. I don't know
unless you don't have your grocery bag and then you got to pay a nickel for
the 10 cents or something. Which they don't do that here. At least everywhere we've been, they still do the whole. They're just like here, take out your plastic bags. I'm like, where are the reusable bags?
Yeah. Okay. So Raj says maybe miss fresh veggies from markets in Portugal. We like our family's fed us really well whenever we've eaten at home. Yeah, in terms of like
stuff is fresh here. I mean, like I've not noticed. I guess I haven't noticed how fast produce breaks down here compared to Porto because we're normally buying it and consuming it fairly quickly, as opposed to when you're living in a place, then you buy it and you use it over time. I guess because I feel like in Porto the fruit breaks down pretty quickly, like berries and stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because it doesn't have stuff on it, you know. But
it's not being sprayed with something to keep it fresh and vibrant looking for longer.
Right. I don't know about here, but it seems like it's been okay.
Yeah, I agree. Michael Bliss is blessing us with his presence. Happy Easter to you as well. So I think we kind of answered this. If we feel like it's more expensive or actually. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We just tell. One thing that I have actually wanted to look at is the price of eggs. I know that sounds silly, but I feel like a lot of people talk about like the price of eggs fluctuating a lot. And I haven't looked. Someone was just telling me about that.
Yeah, there was an issue here
in Texas. Yeah. So a big city in Texas, maybe they're in Houston, and they were saying that they just don't buy eggs anymore because it was up to like the normal standard, not like the cage free thing, but normal standard grocery eggs were up to $3. And they used to be $1 where he's from. And so he says it's gone down now a little bit, but he's like, I can't pay $3 for a dozen eggs. So, but there was a problem that was, what was it? Something was wrong with the chickens.
Right. And then the supply had dropped.
Yeah. There was something that was wrong with chickens, which caused supply
But then they raised the price. And then they realized like, people are willing to pay this price.
So it hasn't gone back down or something. Yeah. I don't know. So I was curious just to see the price of eggs. But like you said earlier, the part of the country we're in, I think it's going to probably still be a little more realistic pricing compared to like Tamara talking about California. Some of those prices, maybe in Texas.
Well, yeah,
or New York
people that
or
are in
like that.
New York,
big cities.
Boston,
It might be prices have gone up to be a bit unrealistic. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
agree.
okay, I think that's probably enough on cost of living, right?
I think so. I mean, we've got some other comments here rolling in.
I would say so. One of the things about the traffic too is in our travels, we have gotten stuck in
Bad traffic.
One was construction and one was an accident. So that is something too, which Sia has to adjust sitting in a car for so long as well. And it's like, oh great, we're stuck in traffic. So that is something. I mean, obviously in Porto, you can get stuck in traffic, but it's different. It's just like city driving and yeah, you know, it's not like you're stuck on an interstate backed up.
Well, and to your point is like, if you're stuck in traffic in Porto, it's your own fault for getting in a car.
Yeah.
Because you could have taken the metro.
That's true. The time of day, you know, it's going to be around rush hour times.
Yeah. If it's
sometimes it's construction.
Certainly in the evening.
Yeah.
If you can take a metro somewhere, like around that kind of 4:30 to 6 o'clock window.
Yeah.
If you can take a metro to where you need to go, just do that. Don't try to get in a car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes it can
parking and
parking, but that is true. Traffic, it is very different. But yeah, you don't have that luxury here, especially if you're driving between cities and such.
We're heavily reliant on cars here.
Definitely. Yeah, no trains or buses aren't a thing. So yeah.
Matt's noticed that he's been to Portugal twice in the past 6 months, and the amount of walking and food being better, that he lost weight both times. That's cool.
Yeah, you definitely move more. I mean, yeah, you just get around a lot more. Again, it's a car
well,
culture.
Okay. We also have to consider this though. Like, let's keep this in perspective. Most people are moving to Portugal and moving to locations that have high levels of walkability. And when I say that, I mean like when I say that, I mean like more urban developed areas. Right.
Yeah.
So people are moving to Lisbon, to Porto, to Braga, to, right.
Yeah. Places where you can walk.
But if you move to a small village, which we've talked to actually 2 people now that this is for our podcast. We have a podcast. We're up to 10 episodes now. Those drop on Tuesdays. I feel like I'm pitching this.
No, it's called Let's Move to Portugal.
So we've talked to 2 people now that have moved to smaller towns, and they feel like they need a car.
Yeah.
Like they have to have a car to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Like 2 guys, they're living in a town where their closest cafe is 3 kilometers away.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You have to have a car.
She didn't hear this interview yet. 3 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Which is like, for you all that know Portugal, that just seems crazy.
Yeah.
Like you should have
the nearest
you should have 20 cafes within 3 kilometers.
Yeah.
Or 100.
That is true. So, I mean, yeah, you do have to put it in perspective, but the US, I think, is a majority of, not walkable areas. Like we are so spread out that, you have like your New Yorks and everything that you can walk, but we are so much more of a car culture. But I want to say something that's really funny about, cafes and being around cafes. Valencia obviously being 3 and her world is Porto. Josh's mom thought it was the funniest thing that I guess you guys were out and she asked.
No, I heard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She asked to go to a cafe.
Yeah. She asked to go to a cafe.
And Josh's mom was like, "Oh, that's cute." Like, very different. But
She still asks for croissants every day.
Yes, she still asks for croissants. We've had to adjust on that. I mean, not that we can't find them, but it's just not quite the same. But yeah, so that's kind of funny. And that would be a difference for Sia. She's asking for the cafes. One other thing I could say on pricing, like for kid things, especially, is you guys went to the trampoline park, and for an hour jump for Sia, it was $8. I mean, a little higher, I guess, than what we do in Porto.
How much is it in Porto?
Well, in Porto for an adult and a kid, and I think last time I might have gotten socks. Or without the socks, I think it was €11 for both of us, because I can go into the toddler area. You just sat and watched, right?
Yeah.
So she goes in on our own in the toddler.
I could have gone in, but they wouldn't make me pay.
They wouldn't make you pay.
No.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's, I don't know. And socks were $3, which I think they're 2 or something. I don't know. So, I mean, it's not bad. But anyway, okay, so on to
You want to read that?
Oh, yes. Hi, Gerald. Howdy, y'all from down the road in Nashville. And yes, it's been cold and drizzly here over the last few days. Yeah.
Drizzly
it's like
here.
this. If you look at like what's it called?
Weather
Radar.
map?
The radar. There's like this big thing that's just kind of moving across. Josh is a little sick if you haven't noticed, but moving across, and it just brought in this nasty rain, and it's cold and everything. But a few days ago it was really nice. We were at the playground. I was wearing like a little tank top thing, and so now it's a little colder, but hopefully that clears up soon.
Yeah. This is a great question from Bud. If you want to read it, and I'll give my perspective.
Okay. You're talking about being out of routines, but do you feel that reminiscent of being on vacation in the States, visiting family and all, or is it still different than visiting other European cities? That's a good question.
So when we first arrived, we spent like the first 24 hours or so kind of feeling normal again in Knoxville. And then we decided to go with my dad and family to Chattanooga. And Kalie's university was close to Chattanooga, but you hadn't spent much time in Chattanooga since we left. I hadn't spent much time in Chattanooga at all. So Chattanooga was new to me, right? So, okay, here I am. I'm a tourist in Chattanooga. We were some of the only people walking the streets.
Yeah.
Like we walked from the hotel down to some of the key areas, right? So we were kind of getting that vibe of what it's like to travel and be a tourist in another city. And it's different. I mean, for sure, sidewalks are bigger. Obviously, you're walking by a lot of main roads. So it's very different than visiting other European cities in that way. But I mean, we tried to do the whole walking thing, and it worked out. I mean, downtown Chattanooga is very
nice
walkable.
And it's walkable. That one was a little weird for me though, because it was like, my university was so close to there. So a long time ago, we used to go to Chattanooga all the time, but a lot has changed, but there was a lot that was the same. So it was like a bit of being back, but also seeing it in a different light, like trying to walk around as like almost like a tourist. So that was a weird one.
You were seeing it as a 30-year-old.
Yeah. Very different.
30-year-old.
Yeah. Some of the bars were no longer there. But it is different, I think. I think also too, when we come back, a lot more of it is just visiting family and friends. Yeah. So it doesn't feel very touristy. It just feels like seeing everyone again. So we haven't really done much because we're just kind of hanging out, seeing people.
Paulo.
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah.
By the way, do FC? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I wore my jersey yesterday.
Yeah, in honor of yes, very, very good win.
All three goals were good. Like even their goal was good.
Yeah.
It was ruled an own goal, but it was a nice header. Okay. This is a good question. I think we should touch on it.
Are too many Americans going to Porto and Lisbon making it too expensive?
No. No. Definitely no to the first part. Too many Americans going to Porto and Lisbon. Let's just look at the too many Americans part. By percentage, Americans, there's not as many of Americans moving to Portugal as other nationalities. Okay, so then let's deconstruct the other part about making it too expensive. Are foreigners paying over the odds for rental properties? Yes. Are there very, very few rental properties? Yes. So you're always going to have, like, economically, you're always going to have this issue of supply and demand, where if the supply is low and the demand is high, then prices will continue to rise until people just won't pay anymore. Are we to that point?
I mean, the government's trying to do a lot with housing and stuff, whether that's a good or bad thing. They've kind of partially created the problem. So them getting more involved, is that making it better or worse? I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But there is an issue there with long-term rentals for sure, for the housing aspect.
Yeah. I don't buy into the whole, like, Americans are ruining Portugal thing. It's not happening.
Well, that, like you said, the percentage wise, for a country of 10 million people, what are we up to now? New numbers will come out in 2023, but you have to think that
we're probably up to 10,000.
Yeah, but 10, that's not putting a dent in things. So
no.
Yeah. So but I mean, like, prices at stores and restaurants and all that stuff's the same. If a new place opens and it's not a Portuguese cuisine, it's an international cuisine, then it's always higher anyway. So I haven't found that it's unreasonably higher in Porto.
Well, and the only thing that Americans, or really, I think any foreigners, are really going to affect, let me see if I'm processing this the right way. Yeah, I think I am, would be rent. Like, why, just because you have foreigners that are living somewhere, or affluent foreigners, let's say, why would that mean that prices on groceries would go up, or
Yeah.
price on at the restaurant would go up, or whatever? Like, that doesn't make sense. Prices are going up because costs are going up.
Oh yeah. Oh, inflation and all that.
Well, I mean,
like
it's
that.
it's not
That's
just
what people are talking
inflation. I mean,
about. Production costs.
prices are going up. Maybe or inflation is going up because prices are going up. But it's like the production costs of things are just rising on like everything.
Yeah.
So you have that.
But you're right. I mean, I think it's housing, and the big thing is,
and housing's big.
Well, yeah, necessary. But the big thing too is like, yeah, if you just don't have enough housing, then it's a supply and demand thing. So those prices can be a lot higher because there's just not that much. So if we get more of a flood of long-term rentals, then prices will go down. I mean, they have to, because it just becomes unrealistic. So yeah, it's not making things too expensive though, especially like you're saying, Americans and a lot of other nationalities are moving to Portugal as well. It's a beautiful country. Why not? It offers a lot. So you can't fault people for wanting to move to Portugal for the variety of reasons. And just because people are moving there doesn't mean that they're trying to change it and make it how it is in their home country. So that's another thing.
That's a really good point. So what we've noticed is most of the Americans that we've come in contact with that are moving to Portugal have really good intentions about their time in Portugal and what they hope to give to Portugal and gain from Portugal. Most Americans we talk to are super keen on learning Portuguese, are really interested in learning about Portuguese culture and history, and wanting to kind of adapt. And they're not wanting to bring their intentionally bring their culture from the States here. I think that's wonderful. The same cannot be said for other nationalities. I will name no names. Let's move on.
But I will say, just to speak on that, not the nationalities, but that's another thing that while, when we were asked about the creature comforts, that I always like to adapt and find what's local wherever I'm living.
Except deodorant.
Except the deodorant. But I would say that that's not necessarily like a local thing. I'm talking about more like face products, moisturizers. I prefer to find something that's made in Portugal or maybe made in Europe, more so than every time I go back, I bring stuff over. So I tend to like to adapt and support what's local anyway. And then it makes life easier all around, really, just finding it there rather than having to figure out how to get it to you.
Yeah. Tamara, when I saw this come up, I had to pull it up because I thought of you when we went to a Mexican restaurant. Can you read this?
Yeah. Tamara, corn tortillas are the main thing I miss, but I can find them in Lisbon. Ooh, France, not so easy. Good Mexican food. I must cook it myself for the most part. That is so true. We've already had Mexican.
So we went to this Mexican restaurant and I got like 3 tacos, and I was shocked because not only did they have like one corn tortilla to wrap and put the meat in, but there was another one because they knew that the first one was going to break.
Wouldn't hold.
So it was like 6 corn tortillas for
Yummy.
3 tacos.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And I thought of you. I was like, she'd lose her mind.
That is true. It is hard to find actually anywhere like around the world. It's hard to find good Mexican. Obviously not Mexico, but it is hard to find some that's not Tex-Mex,
Yeah.
Okay. What boat are you taking across the Atlantic? Celebrity. Yep, we're taking Celebrity. So that should be a lot of fun. My parents will be on there with us. It'll be Sia's first time. Really hoping she doesn't get any sort of like motion sickness. She's been on smaller boats, but it'll be a long 2 weeks if she feels any of that. But okay, what would be the most amazing things about Portugal that the U.S. lacks to convince someone that it's too comfortable in California to move to Porto? Ooh.
I don't know if I could convince somebody in terms of like if you're comfortable and how that would change.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that we've noticed here is safety. And then you don't know if that's just because it's like,
that's a great point.
If it's the news, that's making it, but like, we haven't obviously seen anything, but I guess statistically safety,
absolutely,
it's safer in Portugal than it is in the US. So I think that could drive a lot of people to move somewhere.
No, absolutely. I mean, have you not been out and you've thought like, and I'm talking about during the day, and you've thought like this horrific thing could happen because I'm here in the US? Because I have.
I'm trying.
I've walked into places and analyzed them like Jason Bourne would. Like, where are my exits? That person looks shady. is he carrying, like that type of thing?
Okay, I've done it more being like in a home and just making sure I've got like the monitor on SIA the whole time. Like even at night, I've got the sound on, and in Porto, I don't turn the sound on. I mean, we're fairly close so we could hear when we
Yeah.
sleep. But like I think for me, it's more so at night and making sure doors are locked and maybe that kind of idea of like someone entering.
Yeah.
There's that.
Okay.
I've thought of that.
So
I don't think of that in Porto.
going back to kind of this question, I find things in the US very convenient. So, like someone who doesn't want to be out of their comfort zone
Yeah,
and be a little uncomfortable with things not being convenient, then it could be a difficult transition moving to Portugal,
sure.
where things that you would think would be convenient are not convenient.
Yeah, of course.
There are things that are convenient in Portugal, like being able to walk out of your, if you're living in Porto, for example, being able to walk out of your apartment and do your grocery run and
Yeah,
get a
like
coffee
just right
and
there,
meet up
walking
with
and stuff.
friends
Yeah.
and just on foot.
But you
Uh,
have to figure it out. It's just like when you move anywhere new, like even if you're in the same country, you move to a new place and you have to find your go-tos. Now, obviously, if you like really like Target, for example, then you know that that city is going to have a Target and you know what it's going to have. So you still move, but you have that feel of it being comfortable. When you move to a different country, you have to find where you find like your products, your go-tos, and it takes time. And it's not easy to adapt, and sometimes it can be overwhelming and uncomfortable trying to figure it out. And then especially doing it in a different language can be kind of hard. So I guess you just have to think about that. You have to be okay with it being uncomfortable, at least at the beginning. But I would say something that can move people from outside of California or the US would be safety.
Yeah. Let's see if we can kind of speed up to answer everybody's questions. These are awesome. You guys are asking amazing questions. We really appreciate that. So do we notice better health abroad, maybe due to better food? I will say this, when we got back, this was kind of one of the things that was a first impression. Physically speaking, people are in worse shape. Like visually, physically speaking, people are in worse shape in the States than other places we see.
And you do
Overweight
get bombarded
and
with like food commercials and billboards and advertisements. So I think it's a lot. Food is a big thing here, it seems like.
yeah.
So health wise, yeah, it's hard to say like for sure, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would say I've noticed food being in your face a lot more.
Yeah.
Portion size is bigger as well, I guess.
Dean fact checked us, and Chattanooga is the 4th largest city.
Well, there you
And
go.
I thought it was around like
Fourth,
around
but you were
Braga's-
kind of like,
Braga's size.
maybe it sounds like let's just get to it. Thanks, Dean.
Well, yeah, we got the first 3 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Are you just rolling through? Do we have any questions here?
Sorry. Okay, here's something you can read.
It was hard to get used to not tipping here in Ecuador.
A lot of
but it's
Americans
wonderful.
struggle with not tipping in Portugal,
Yeah. It
especially
feels weird.
on like when you're a tourist in Portugal. A lot of people will tip. I think once you live there, then you kind of grow out of it in the first 6 months.
But some people don't, and they find it weird and uncomfortable. But you just got to remember that it is their culture to not really tip, or just to tip very little, and they appreciate that as well. So you do want to make sure you kind of stay within the parameters to not throw things off or make it, just change things, I guess. But yeah, it's nice to tip because the service is good and you want to, not because you feel like you should and you have to.
Yeah.
Josh Kalie just moved to Porto 1 week ago today. Congrats.
Congrats.
Let's have lunch soon. Oh, living on Santa Catarina. Very
When
good.
we get back.
Yeah, we'll be back in
We're
May.
close.
Yeah. We still got a while, actually. Thinking about it, it seems like we've been back for a while already, and it's only been a week and a half.
Week and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
Week and a half with this head cold.
Yeah, I think the flight
messed me up.
Really, the pressure, right?
Jim.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the live
US.
stream. To the YouTubes.
Yeah. All right. I think we're almost rolling through these. Almost.
I mean,
done,
we're rolling through. No, we're not almost done. We're rolling
Benfica.
through them a little faster. No, go Benfica. Benfica is going to win the league, but at least Porto beat them.
Stop not knocking the table here.
I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, hi. Did you read that question?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. This will happen concerning the housing prices. Oh,
so what do we think?
What do we think? With the housing prices? Good question. I want to say real quick, just to clarify, because people will email. Remember at the beginning of the year, like couple weeks of January, we put out a video about the housing bubble bursting. And if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. It's a really good video. But we took that information from an economist on a really big website who put out that this was his prediction. This was not our prediction.
We recreated the article.
His talking points, and we put it into video form so we could visually get an idea of it. And then we also have been talking with some realtors in Portugal in general about how we can do like what's the other side of the coin to what this economist has said. So I will say in that video, that's not our opinion on things, because people will write and be like, okay, it's April now. What do you think about
why hasn't it crashed yet?
The bubble bursting, your opinion. And it's like, whoa, it's not our opinion. We are still looking to buy. It hasn't scared us away.
We signed a CPCV.
Yeah. So, which we will get to that, and we have a vertical community update, but we'll put a video out about that.
Yeah.
So there, we do want to show kind of what's going on all around, and it's not our opinion that video wasn't.
Yeah.
But that being said, housing prices are getting out of control.
Yeah, I think they've been out of control for the past year.
Yeah.
Things might slow down. Here's my best advice: don't move to Lisbon. For real.
Yeah.
To people, don't move to Lisbon. Like,
because it's too expensive.
Yeah. Well, there's other places in Portugal, man.
Okay. Look.
Yeah.
I guess that's Josh's advice. Don't move to Lisbon.
Don't move to Lisbon. We have a super chat thingy.
Oh,
super chat.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
We appreciate
You're awesome.
it. We appreciate
All right.
it.
So yes, housing prices are getting out of control. They've been out of control for a bit. So again, like I said earlier, that's why the government's trying to do some things about it, but we'll see what that really looks like. Have you found any good warm beaches or natural swimming areas good for kids? Are we talking about
This has got to be
for Portugal or Portugal in general? Warm, I know, because the water is so cold. When you go in, there's these things called river beaches, and those are really nice. A little more inland into Alentejo. Yeah, the river beaches are warm, great swimming areas. There's some saltwater places as well around, like
definitely warm, like late spring through summer.
Yeah.
Not warm all year round, but
right. But and there's indoor pools. Generally, they're parts of gyms though, so it's not like playing. It's more like swim lessons, laps, things like that. So that's not as much for playing, but yeah, they're around. I think the river beaches are the best option.
Paul, reach out to us if you'd like to chat about Warsaw, Poland. Maybe we could do an interview for our other channel, Expats Everywhere Explores.
Oh yeah, while we're on that, and Josh is scrolling looking for other stuff. We do have a second channel that we've launched about outside of Portugal. So whether you're wanting to move somewhere else or visit somewhere else, it's a great resource to get information on different cities and see what they look like. So make sure after this live stream you go and you subscribe to that one. It's called Expats Everywhere Explores.
Yep. And our friends at Honeymoon Always, Dan and Michelle, are able to catch up.
Tag-alongs, yeah. Okay.
You want us to bring you a box? Because I think we got an extra one.
No, but they're in the U.S. right now as well.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
so,
true.
And deodorant.
Also
and basic clothes.
Yeah. There we go.
True.
There we go. Thanks for backing us up on that.
Just basic, solid color
get your basic
shirts.
clothes.
And and the tag-alongs.
Get your base layers.
Although the tag-alongs, like I said earlier, they're definitely smaller than they used to be, but they taste the best. They taste the same from what I remember. It's been a while.
This is a great question from Eric. Eric says, has your cost of living there continued to lessen since moving? It's just kind of like fluctuated. And we just before we're traveling back here, we finished logging 30 days of expenses. We're going to create another cost of living video. So this will be our third one. And we'll be able to show you guys how things have shifted. Like, for example, first 2 years, we didn't have to pay for schooling for Valencia because she wasn't in school. So now we have that as an expense. But there are other areas where we dropped, like our first year, we had an expense of healthcare. And then we've, scaled
shifted
back.
Stuff. I would say this too. So we do have 2 videos out from 2021 cost of living, 2022 cost of living. This will be our 2023. So it'll be interesting to compare. But one thing that we do have to note is, in 2021, we're coming out of things with COVID. So maybe things weren't as open. There weren't as many things to do. And now obviously that's, restaurants, bars, all that stuff's open. So I think that we do see a shift of like in that one, I think we had a lot of beer runs like at the grocery store because we had a nice little balcony area. So we were, maybe having a drink at home, whereas now we're doing that out and we're having drinks out a lot more. So I think when you see the breakdown of here we, got a super bock at the grocery store compared to a super bock at a cafe, we're out instead of in more.
And
Oh,
speaking of
thank you.
super, we have a super chat.
Good stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
And there was something else I was going to say about that, the cost of living. Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, but we'll put out a video about that, so you'll see kind of what we spend our money on. And as Sia gets older, those things get a little more expensive as well. She likes her food, that's for sure. So that budget's going up.
She does.
Okay, Stephanie, is it best to go through a broker realtor to find a long-term rental? Some of the real estate websites seem sketchy or unreliable. Yeah. It's obviously more reliable and secure to go through someone. If you look on Idealista, you never really know what you're going to get. It could be a private landlord. You could never hear back from someone. You could get a realtor who says, oh, I don't have that, but I have this. So it's kind of a mixed bag. So if you're looking for a realtor or a renters/buyer's agent, because we work with both, then you can email me at info@expatseverywhere.com, and I can link you up with someone depending on what city you're looking for.
And I would say, honestly, if you found something on like Idealista or Casapo,
yeah,
if it feels like a scam, it's probably a scam.
Because they are on there. The platform does try to, mitigate that risk, but it does happen. So yeah, if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is.
Jim Jones, congrats on your
Woohoo!
D7.
Yay!
That is awesome.
Can't wait. So yeah, so if you need realtors or anything, then just let us know for sure.
I don't know if you used our course to help you out, but we appreciate you shouting it out, saying that you got your D7.
Oh, yes. Nice little segue there. So if you guys are interested, we do have a course for the D7. It's a DIY D7 visa and course. And then we also have one if you're going for what they're calling the D8 now, the remote worker visa. So we do have those different courses. And then also we have a living in Portugal course. So like once you get to Portugal, all of those things like what's the CEF appointment like? How do I set up utilities? All of that stuff. We have a course for that because we realized we have these visa courses and then people be like, yes, I got my visa. And then they'd get here and they'd be emailing, how do I do this? Where do I go for this? And it's like, we should put something together that has like the grocery stores, like the actual, you're here, yay. Now let's live and let's figure out how to live comfortably. So we do have that course as well. And there's a discount if you get the visa course and then you get the living in Portugal course as well.
Yep.
Buddy,
I love this comment from Buddy.
I love Porto, but you have to admit the barbecue is way better in Tennessee.
100%. There is a place in Porto that has decent barbecue.
I think it's more Texas style, right?
It is more Texas style, but at least it's like
barbecue.
American
it's
barbecue.
Good. Yeah, it's near Casa de Musica.
Mimo's meat.
I don't remember the name of it. Right?
Mimos.
Is that the one you're thinking of?
I think it is.
That one, Casa de Musica.
Yeah.
Near the Rotunda in that area.
Yeah.
But then also we had some friends who went to a place recently that opened up and they said it was decent. Decent, right? I forget the name of that. So I think you can find it. But yeah, I mean, obviously Tennessee, I think we were talking about doing, I think we have a lot of family and, for the Easter weekend. So we're visiting with cousins and everything. And the big debate tonight is, are we doing Mexican or are we doing barbecue? So I think we have to put it to a vote for dinner tonight.
That is true.
But yeah. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome.
I think we've pretty much hit everybody's question. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. We need to do this more often, honestly.
Yeah, we always love answering your guys' questions and just getting to chat and kind of get to know names as well. Obviously, that would be the other thing, which just remind me. So for those of you who are interested in doing something that's not so much us talking, but it's a lot more back and forth, we do have a Patreon page and certain tiers on that Patreon page. We have a patron only call. And on that call, everyone can turn on your video and your microphone if you feel comfortable. And we actually have a big conversation about all these things. So rather than
we see some of those people on here right now.
Thank you guys for being there. So instead of us just sitting here like reading and then talking, it's like we're talking, but then others are talking and you guys our community is so great on there. They're very busy helping each other because everyone's in different stages of life, different stages of a move. So it's a really great community to be a part of and great resources. So if you're interested in that, then you can check out our Patreon page, which is maybe in the description. I don't know. I can't remember if I put it in the description. Don't you have a little
Patreon.com/expats everywhere.
Yeah. And if you can't find it, you can email me at info@expatseverywhere.com. But yeah, jump on that Patreon because we love getting to know you guys for that. So that's nice.
Yeah, I hate to then like piggyback something off of that, but we are doing another Q&A, but this Q&A is going to be for the podcast.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So we are doing a Q&A podcast because this video was specifically about kind of the US things we noticed. The other one is going to be all about Portugal stuff. So if you have any questions about Portugal, you can email podcast@expatseverywhere.com. And we're putting together that list now. So podcast@expatseverywhere.com. Email whatever question you have about Portugal, and we'll try to include that in our podcast episode.
Yeah, and the Q&A
The
there,
Q&A.
because that just gives us it's a platform that allows us to talk a bit more about things. It's a little harder, on video on YouTube, but that is a longer format, so we can definitely dive deep into questions that you might have on there.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions that are rolling in, so you guys can send that to podcast@expatseverywhere.com. All right, thank you guys so much. Now let's get moving.
Bye.
Bye.